Skip Bronson, what was the war at the shore? It sounds like a heavyweight fight.
It actually was. In 1995, Steve Wynn and I met then Governor Christy Todd Whitman, and she wanted Steve to come to Atlantic City and develop a 200-acre parcel of land. In order to get to the land, it required a tunnel being built from the Atlantic City Expressway out to this fairly remote piece of property. Donald Trump and Arthur Goldberg, who owned Bally's casinos at the time, didn't think that was a very good idea and pretty much did all they could to keep us out. And the local newspaper called it the war at the shore. It got to be a pretty nasty fight.
Well, it's a fitting title for a fantastic book. Let's talk about the competitors of the war at the shore. What was Donald Trump like back then? He was doing business in Atlantic City, but he wasn't really minting money.
No, well, Donald is a fantastic businessman. People know him as a brand builder, now know him as a television star. But the bottom line is, when he develops real estate, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's very, very sophisticated in that regard. And, you know, he had these three big casinos. He had a huge investment there. And Steve, on the other hand, operating only in Las Vegas at the time, didn't really have a passion to come to Atlantic City, but once we got into it and started to pursue it, it took on a life of its own.
What makes Steve Wynn so good at what he does?
He's really a very forward-thinking guy, and he knows how to make people say, wow. That's one of the great things that he can do, whether it was a volcano at the Mirage or a giant lake at the Bellagio. He always conjures up these ideas that really don't have anything to do with casino gambling. They have everything to do with attracting a big crowd and creating new sort of Disney-esque attractions.
Now, the war at the shore didn't have an impartial referee. There were a lot of government functions and government employees involved. Tell me about their role in this fight.
Well, part of the issue is because we had to build this tunnel, we had to go through a middle-class black neighborhood and demolish 9 homes. So that really lit a fire of passion. Beyond that, and so it took on, there were racial overtones to it, and Atlantic City has had a long history of conflict. It just seems that there's always a battle going on in Atlantic City. And there's a disconnect, at least at the time, there was a disconnect between the city and the state government. The casinos paid more taxes and employed more people than they ever projected. Part of the problem is that most all of that money went to the state coffers and didn't get left behind to fix up Atlantic City, which is really what needed to be done.
Well, before we get to Atlantic City and gaming and its future, let's talk about how the war at the shore wound up. Who won?
Well, actually, there weren't any losers in this war. It was a nasty war, but it was unique in that fact because we wound up selling Mirage Resorts to MGM Resorts in 2000 and never developed the hotel casino that Steve wanted to do. However, Boyd Gaming developed the Borgata Resort on this piece of property once the tunnel was in fact constructed. So we won in the sense that we were able to get the tunnel built. However, Donald wound up getting the first exit from the tunnel onto his casino property. So you know, everybody came out okay.
All right, now how is Atlantic City doing? It doesn't seem like they're okay. What's the future for gaming in Atlantic City? And what about the future of gaming in America? It seems like wherever you turn, there's either a riverboat casino popping up or an Indian casino popping up. Doesn't it dilute the whole industry?
Well, we're getting to a glut situation in the gaming industry. You know, some places still are building new casinos and doing okay, but certain areas are overdone at this point. And in Atlantic City, you have 50% of the customer traffic coming from the Philadelphia market. Now they have casinos in Philadelphia. A lot of people have decided not to make that trek. Atlantic City really has not yet figured out how to attract people for reasons other than gaming, capitalize on its natural resources like that great ocean, among other things. And until that happens, I think Atlantic City is going to continue to struggle.
So do you think it's worth betting against the major casino companies at this juncture?
I don't. I think that, well, you have to sort of bifurcate this. Many of the major companies are now operating in Asia and making, you know, buckets full of money over there. And there are still opportunities in the United States where gaming companies will come in and build successful projects. I think it's like any business. You have good companies and bad. I think there are plenty of opportunities to make money investing in casino stocks.
This market has fewer
stock
players.
pickers market.
Stocks have
where,
rallied this year.
We're coming into a Monday where we're going to